Now, this question of genocide is something that has become a huge topic in the last year. Many people, including some scholars of genocide, have said that it looks like Israel is committing genocide in Palestine, including Omar Bartov most recently on Swiss radio. There's also people who disagree with that, of course. So what would you say people need to understand about genocide, how that relates to Srebrenica, and how does that relate to Gaza as well?
Oh, I don't know where to start. There's so many things to say here. First of all, most people don't even know what genocide is.
What is genocide?
Well, it's not lots of killing, but it's, to put it in like the most simple terms from the UN Genocide Convention, it's one or more acts committed with the intent to exterminate a group of people. So it can be killing, but it can also be like forced sterilization. And it can also be creating circumstances calculated to bring about the physical destruction of the group. For example, man-made famines or destroying the medical system, attacking hospitals, stuff like this, and so on and so on. So there's like a list of things that can be methods of genocide. And this is very clear. And this is what people should understand, because we had, for example, like we have now the genocide against Uyghurs in China, where forced sterilization is the main genocide method. And you don't have to be like a genius or a biologist or anything to understand that if you sterilize almost every Uyghur woman, there's not going to be another generation of Uyghurs.
Have they really sterilized almost every Uyghur woman?
They haven't, but that's the goal. But, you know, journalists see, oh, I don't see like a pile of dead bodies, so that's not genocide. That's not how it works. You can see a pile of dead bodies. For example, the bombing of Germany in World War II, almost 500,000 people were killed, but the goal of the Allies was not to exterminate the German nation. It was to stop Hitler. And of course, you can say that maybe the bombing of Dresden was too intense, or maybe this was too bad, or that was too bad, and so on. But the intent behind it was not to kill every single German that exists anywhere.
And I think that's one of the tough points about genocide, which is why people like Dirk Moses are even skeptical of the term, who's the editor of the Genocide Journal, because it's not just about the intent, it's about proving the intent.
Yeah.
And how can you do
Which
that?
is bullshit.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think genocide is like way too gate-kept, way too strict. So I have to like roll back a little bit. So genocide, we know the definition now. And who is responsible for declaring that something is or isn't genocide? People think it's the courts. It's not the courts. The only genocides that were ever declared as such by international courts ever were Rwanda, Bosnia, Srebrenica, and Cambodia. Starting in 1999, so 25 years ago with Rwanda, like, are you going to tell me there was no genocide ever until 99 or 95 in that case, 94 in that case? And the last one was Cambodia, was proven in 2018. It happened in the 70s. What did Cambodians do? Did they say, oh, some shit happened here, but we don't know because no court allowed us, like the white Western man didn't allow us to call it genocide? No, they built the Tuol Sleng Genocide Memorial.
Right.
And then in 2018, after so many decades, they finally proved it. But if you went by international courts, then you would have to deny every other genocide ever, including the Holocaust, including the Paraimos, including like fucking
Paraimos
everything.
was the killing of Roma and Sinti people by the Nazis.
Yes, yeah. Which some people also say is like a part of the Holocaust. So like it's not the job of courts, because courts don't fucking do it in most cases. It's the job of genocide scholars, genocide experts. If they say this and this, such and such, is a genocide, then that's what it is. I mean, of course, there has to be some type of like agreement, consensus. You know, it's with scientific stuff, it's always a measure, like you have to find a balance. There's always people who disagree, just like there's like climate scientists who say that climate change isn't happening, you know?
Yeah.
You have genocide scholars who deny the genocide of the Tutsis in Rwanda. You know, people like that
Right.
exist.
That's also a very clear case because it happened so quickly. There's also a bit of a tendency to deny the Bosnian genocide on the left, though, isn't there?
Yeah, because people don't have enough brain cells, so they get their worldviews like in a package, like on sale, you know? You buy one, you get two for free. You buy hating the US, you get loving Russia in the same package. So, you know, that's tankies. Tankies are the ones doing that, and it's a shame.
Well,
because,
you know, Noam Chomsky, for example.
Fuck him.
Yeah, I mean, he's on record for doubting, at least, that what happened at Srebrenica was
For
genocide.
for denying it. He also straight up denied it several times. He also denied the Cambodian genocide. He was actually actively writing to editors of US media while the genocide was going on to get them to stop reporting on it and stop calling it a genocide.
That's so strange, because also he's come out to say, that, you know, point out that Pol Pot was actually partially backed by the West during this time. So
yeah, but he was also partially backed by Noam Chomsky, who tried to downplay his shit.
Interesting.
I mean, it's just the guy's built his career like he's a linguist. And people say, oh, you should be grateful because he's talking about so many things that other people don't talk about. Other people do talk about it, but they don't get listened to because they're not an old white professor, even if his professorship has nothing to do with genocide, you know?
True.
But I got this argument from tankies saying, oh, you should be grateful because he talked about like East Timor and shit. There was people from East Timor talking about East Timor as well. Just because they don't get listened to doesn't mean we have to keep pumping up and like putting on a pedestal this old white dude who did more damage than he did good. It's a shame because I saw one of my neighbors getting kidnapped in the middle of the street, in the middle of the day, being brought to Guantanamo, tortured for years without even getting charged. I fucking hate the government of the US. But I also fucking hate other governments who did bullshit. I don't need to reduce my brain to 2 brain cells to think, fuck US imperialism, fuck what they did in Iraq, fuck what they did in Afghanistan, fuck all the drone bombings, fuck Guantanamo and Abu Ghraib. So now I'm going to love Russia and China, and now I'm going to be like, NATO imperialism destroying Milosevic. Yeah. Fuck Milosevic.
I have noticed there is a bit of a trend on among some of the left who would put a list of, you know, I think things which are right to criticize, the invasion of Iraq, Afghanistan, a number of others, and then they would put Serbia in there as well, right? I think people don't really understand actually what was happening in Kosovo. I mean, maybe you can explain for that, because a lot of people hear NATO bombing of Yugoslavia. They think Yugoslavia was this socialist country. But of course, at that point, it was not even Yugoslavia. It was the rump state of Serbia and Montenegro who were committing genocide on neighbors through funding ethnic-backed militias.
And through their own, like, for example, in Srebrenica, there wasn't even militias. It was like regular units of the Serbian Ministry of Interior.
Wow.
Funded by the state under direct control of Milosevic.
And so then what about Kosovo? Was the West
Kosovo,
wrong
it was
to
also
invade?
the police of
engage?
Serbia, the police of Serbia, and the army of Serbia. So everybody's talking about Black Lives Matter. We support Black Lives Matter. Of course we do. We support it not only in the US, but also in Brazil and in other places where black people get killed by the police in like unjust cases. And
Including
we are,
Germany.
And in Germany, where it's black people and it's also Muslims, it's also refugees, and also in a lot of cases, people with mental health issues that get killed by the police unjustly or burned to death even. So we're against police brutality anywhere it's happening. But then in Kosovo, where you have police officers of the state, I mean, Kosovo was part of Serbia at the time. So you have police of your own state coming to your house, raping your children, your young daughters, in front of your eyes, killing people, raping people, torturing people, building mass graves. You had like a truck full of the corpses of Albanian civilians, like have an accident on the road and then slide into like off the road, and then they discovered the corpses that were being driven to Belgrade. Belgrade is like they have mass graves of Albanians, people who are still today searching to get even a single bone of their loved ones so they can bury them, so they can have some closure, but they don't get it because the mass graves are in Serbia and they don't have access to it. I mean,
Albanians, of course, were the other ethnic group, non-Serbian, in Kosovo, and are
Yeah,
mostly
and the
Muslim.
majority. I mean, we have this on record, also not just in Kosovo, in eastern Bosnia. We have this on record that, for example, the fucking psychopath teachers that were beating my mom and all her other like school kids in elementary school were sent from Belgrade. They were sending people from Serbia and from Montenegro, ethnic Serbs, to go to eastern Bosnia to get into positions of power and to change the ethnic makeup. And they use it now as an... also, we were like banned from saying that we're Bosniaks, like you mentioned before. And now they say, oh, look at the census from before the genocide or before the war, they say. I don't see any Bosniaks in that census. And now you're saying Bosniaks were killed. Bitch, you don't see Bosniaks because we were not allowed to say that we exist. Like, just in the 70s, like 30 years after Yugoslavia started, and even more years if you count like the kingdom of Yugoslavia and so on, we got the right to call ourselves Muslims. Muslims is not what we are. I mean, most of us are Muslims, but Muslims is also like some random guy in Malaysia.
Yeah, or Albanians as well. They
Or
were allowed to be an
Albanians.
ethnic group, but
Yeah, and we
Bosniaks